Think about how many lifetimes you've had in your own life. And I know that seems a little bit strange, but bear with me here because my mom said this thing to me once. And, hi, Mom, love you. My mom said this thing to me once where she said, I don't know, we were just sitting on the couch. I was a teenager, and she's like, it's amazing how many lifetimes you can have in a life. And that thing has just never left me because she was exactly right. Now that I'm in my late 40s and I look back on my life and I can just almost divide it into different lifetimes. And that really has gotten me thinking because there are so many moments in my life that I can look back at now and really define as timeline shifts. And this little moment in time caused a ripple that lasted for decades up until now and presumably into the future. And I want to share some of that. I want to talk about my timeline shifts and invite you to share yours also. So here I am in the Oceanside Harbor. This has become my home. I've been here for I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 4 years in Oceanside, and I just love this place. And so I like to get out here, and you can hear sea lions in the background. Probably they're going a little crazy today, and the sun is setting over here, so it's in my face. But that's great because I just love it. I love this place, and I'll show you some footage also interspersed in here, so you're not looking at my face the whole time. Um, but how did I get here? Like, what are the events that led me here? And what if little things hadn't happened? Would I be here in my life? And I think of the very first, well, career wise, one of the first timeline shifts. So I was living in Seattle. I went to school at the University of Washington and was living in Seattle. And I happened to get this internship at a local radio station, KISW Seattle. Still there. I don't think it's the same. It was Rock Channel when I was there in the late 1990s. But I started there as an intern with a morning radio show, and I tell you what, I fell in love with that business and the people. And I was working like when we were just starting radio, we were still doing some like reel to reel stuff and cutting and taping film together, and all of the music was done by CDs and manual. And it was right as the transition was happening between all of that manual work and digital computer based systems. So time of my life back then. I just loved it. And so I got hired on as an intern while I was in college. And wouldn't you know it, at some point during that internship, the program director of the station and the morning radio host I was working with at the time, which was a very big deal, the biggest morning radio show in Seattle and huge numbers, and they called me into their office and said, hey, will you produce our show? You know, our producer is no longer here for whatever reason. I still to this day don't know, but will you produce our radio show? And here I am. How old was I? 21, 22, something like that. And they asked me to produce this number one radio show in Seattle. And I was like, yes, I will do it. And they gave me a salary, and I felt like on top of the world. I felt rich. I felt like, because by the time I was doing that, the radio station had moved from this little dumpy building on Lake Union to one of the gleaming skyscrapers downtown, and I got to work in one of those skyscrapers, and what an epic experience. I just loved it. Producing a morning show. I mean, the show was on from 6 to 10 in the morning. I had to get there by about 5 a.m. and plan out the show. Who are the guests? Who are they going to be the guests in the next week or month? So, you know, late 90s Seattle, you can probably do a list of names that I'd interacted with, but I just loved it. From rock bands to celebrities to TV stars. They were either coming into the studio for interviews or calling in for interviews. I was setting up those interviews and just making sure the show rolled on smoothly, and I just loved it. Now, at the time, I was married. I'd gotten married at 20 years old, moved to Seattle with my wife. She was going to school in Tacoma. I was going to school up in Seattle. And she was scheduled to do an internship back in Spokane, Washington for her career. And I'm not saying anything poorly about her because it was our decision. It was my decision. I was a part of it. But the decision was that we would move back to Spokane so she could do her internship. And that's one of the moments. That's one of the timeline shifts for me because I left that producer job not knowing just how good I had it or how cool it was, because there was part of me that thought, okay, I'm just going to go do the same thing that I'm doing here in Seattle, in Spokane. And I did work at a radio station in Spokane, but completely different experience, as you can imagine. We went from a top radio market to a barely registering radio market, and it's just different. But after I left, the guys in Seattle that I was working with signed this multi-million-dollar deal with CBS Radio, where they went national with the show, and they all did very, very well. And here I was on board that train, and I hopped off too early. And whatever the reasons are, again, it was a thing that happened, a thing that we decided, and I did it. I jumped off the train and went to Spokane, and I think about how different my life would be had I not done that. And who knows? I mean, it may be worse, it may be better. I don't know. I do know it would be different, but it was a timeline shift. It was one of those moments in life where my path went here and cut and went this way. And how many times has that happened? But here's the thing, is that what that did is ingrain in me a love for that radio business. And the radio business today is far different than what it was back then. Back then it was I don't know, it was just fun. And morning radio was the thing, and people tuned in and interacted, and the ratings were huge. And today, I mean, who listens to morning radio shows anymore? We've got our podcasts and we've got our audiobooks and very niche and specific channels out there. And so, yeah, morning radio is still a thing, but it's just not what it was. And it gave me this love for that format. And I did work in radio in Spokane. It wasn't the same. I ended up leaving it, and that led me to a job in marketing. And then I spent 20 plus years working in the marketing and advertising field, and I never loved it. In fact, I probably can say I hated it most of the entire time I was doing it. But I did it because it paid bills and it supported the family, but I just feel like I never found my groove in my work. And I always thought about that in Seattle, and it's like, what if I never left? Where would my life be if I hadn't left? Now, I can't sit here and have regrets and wish that I had pursued that, because who knows, it may not have led where I thought it would have. You don't know. But what it did do is give me this appreciation for this format. And it's not until now, or the last year or two even, where people have said, hey, Travis, you have that experience. You can create something on your own now. Why not create a podcast? Why not do something? And that speaks to me. That resonates in my soul. And that's part of the reason why this channel is in existence, because maybe it's a first step toward a podcast, or to building some sort of community where we can build a podcast together. So I'm open for that. And I think that could be one of the coolest experiences. And maybe that's what's next for me in midlife and beyond. But I do know that time in my early 20s in Seattle, working in radio, was absolutely defining to me. And the guys who worked there don't even know that. I mean, to them, I think I was a passing blip, I was this young, dumb intern. Apparently I did well enough. They offered me a job, and then it didn't work out. They continued doing their thing. I was just a blip in the existence of their lives and of their show. Still friends with them on Facebook, and I have to tell you the story of one of the other guys, the main radio host. Incredible human, and he set out exactly what he set out to achieve, and I have so much respect and admiration. So that'll be another video maybe, because it's not my story to tell. But what is my story to tell is that experience, and how leaving that job in Seattle completely shifted my timeline. And there are a few other things like that as well, because that sent me on, like I said, to these jobs in marketing, and I never found my home there. I bounced from job to job. I never held a job for more than 3 years. Maybe you can identify with that, or maybe not. I don't know. But layoffs, or I think people could tell that my heart wasn't in it, that I wasn't super excited about it, that I wasn't giving my all, and I would get laid off. And I told another story on this channel about working 2 jobs at once, and that was the last time I'd really ever worked for companies, worked for somebody. And I swear that whole path was set off by that one decision to leave the radio show. in Seattle. I mean, that's the timeline shift that happened for me. And there have been so many other timeline shifts throughout my life, work-related, relationship-related, what have you. I mean, what would have to happen for me to be sitting right here at this beautiful harbor watching a sailboat go by? What would have had to happen or not happen for me to be here? And when we really examine that in our own lives, like think of where you are right now. Like, what had to happen for you to be in the very spot you are sitting right at this very moment? I don't know what had to happen for you, but I mean, play that movie in your head, like the amazing things, the scary things, the things that maybe felt hopeless or just horribly nerve-wracking, maybe incredibly exciting. There's everything that had to happen for you to be here. It's pretty remarkable. So I think timeline shifts, they can happen without us knowing that it's a timeline shift when it happens. And then we look back on it and say, yep, that was a shift. But I think also we can see them coming, and we can start to be like, okay, I feel a shift coming up. I feel something is going to change. And if we can start to anticipate those and plan those and make those shifts happen in our favor, we're going to be in really, really good shape. So think about that. What has shifted in your past to get you where you are, and what needs to shift in the future to get you where you want to be? Because you can plan those, and you can make those happen for yourself. You can recognize them and say, this is going to be a big shift. If I make this change, where am I going to be? What's going to happen? And make it happen for yourself. For me, another one of those is starting this channel, because I didn't know I had this in me to get in front of a camera and talk to you and build this community together. And I would have thought, okay, that's for other people to do. I can't do that. I don't have what it takes to do that. And then, I'm a very small channel with small views, and that's okay. I'm doing it for me because I love it and I'm having fun, and you engage, and it's great, and I love it. But it's not blowing up by any means, and that's okay because I'm having so much fun doing it, and I'm doing it for me and my own personal growth, and I love that you're along for that. But just the fact that I'm here and that I'm putting in the work and I'm having a blast with it. This is a timeline shift. There's a previous version of me that would have tried for the first 10 videos, the first 3 months or whatever, and said, I'm not getting results, I quit. I'm not that person anymore. Now I see the long-term play here, and I get that it takes a lot of investment and time and passion in order to make something pay off. You don't just write a book and sell it. And that's another story. I'll have to tell you that story sometime too, because I actually did that. I wrote a book and sold it, and I thought that was my in, and I thought I was set for life, and then timeline shift, it didn't happen. But that's another thing that really, it just ingrained in my head that if something is hard, I quit. And that's unfortunate, because who knows where I would have been had I had a different mindset back then. So I have that mindset now, and this channel is part of that, and sharing these stories and talking with you and hopefully inspiring and motivating you to do the same. I would love to hear your story. What are some shifts in your life that have led you here? And what shifts do you want to happen to get you to where you want to go? Those are really important things to think about, and I would love it if you'd comment and tell me, and we can have that conversation together, because that's important stuff. So thank you. That's it. That's what I wanted to say today. I thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me and just being part of this and watching this, and hopefully reflecting on your own life a little bit as you listen to me ramble on about mine. But I'm here for you. We're all in this together. I love you very much. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm going to see you again on the next video. Thank you.